Madam President and GQ, thank you so much for being here today. Now, Madam President, we launched a really ambitious campaign focused on scaling up renewable energy in Africa, and we did that last November alongside President Cyril Ramaphosa, because I think we all believed in this power of the untapped potential of Africa to make sure that the demographic dividend that we're going to see in the future became an opportunity, not a liability, because we know right now there are 600 million people across the continent who don't have access to electricity. So when you think about what does ultimate success look like in this campaign, can you paint for us a vision? We're heading towards the G20 meeting later this year. What does success look like for the Scaling Up Renewable Energy campaign, in your view?
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here today. Indeed, you said it. 600 million people have no access to electricity in Africa. And just imagine, in your daily life, no access to electricity. This means for the children in the evening, no light to do the homework. This means no electricity for cooking. This means no fridge for your food, no washing machine, etc., etc. So this is not only a question of technology, it's also a question of human dignity, that these people have access to electricity at home. My second point is, now, how are we going to make this electricity available? You can go into the fossil fuels. But this would fuel climate change, of course, because of the emissions, the additional emissions that will be out there. This will intensify the desertification. This will intensify the extreme weather events. This will push people out of the continent, etc., etc. Or, and of course this is the better way, we choose renewables. And renewables on a continent that has the resources in abundance, sun and wind and hydropower, what is lacking is the infrastructure to use that. And this on a continent that has an enormous amount of skilled young people that are just waiting for the opportunity to have the good job. So here comes our campaign. This is the campaign to mobilize pledges, not only from heads of state and government, so countries, but also the business sector, because it's a fantastic business case, and to invest in renewables for Africa with all the consequences I've just been describing. So a success would be if we have really an amazing result in Johannesburg at the end of this year, which you started, and thank you again for doing that. Hugh, it is the Global Citizen are fantastic on that one. Mobilize politics, mobilize the business sector for the benefit of the people in Africa.
I love that. Thank you, Madam President. That's GQ, and in a second, I'd love you to pronounce your name in Xhosa, because that was wonderful to hear. But can you tell us a bit about your story? You're the CEO of a homegrown energy company based in Johannesburg, Pele Energy Group. And I want you to share with us the role of both, really how you built the business to where it is today. I want to understand the investment case. I want to look at, have you bootstrapped it? Have you relied on major private investment, or has the public sector also played a role? Can you give us a taste of that? Because I think all of us wonder how you can build a domestic renewable energy company on the continent. It's really impressive.
Thank you very much, Hugh, for the question. And first and foremost, it's an extreme honor and a privilege to share the stage and platform with yourself, President von der Leyen, and thank you for the question. The real pronunciation of my name is Gqi. It's spelled Gqi, and fortunately, when I got to university, one of my friends remembered that there's a little magazine that's called GQ, and instead of like people butchering your name, let's just spell it out. So for anyone who knows Xhosa, the real version is Gqi. But to answer your question, how in essence, a group of 5 young South Africans in 2009 went and started what is now Pele Energy Group, and one of the largest African-owned IPPs with just under 4 gigawatts of renewable energy split across solar, wind, and PV BESS. To give you a quick snapshot, in essence, and this is what we were discovering just yesterday, my co-founders and ourselves, was that our origins, in essence, were formed from the UNFCCC framework and foundation, right? In the United Nations in 2007, 2009, in trying to incentivize the rollout of renewable energy, created a clean development mechanism, which essentially had two key proponents which affected our lives. So if a project was uneconomical in and of itself, or if a project could prove additionality, which in essence was if the renewable energy project could show a socio-economic development model and an imperative in the environment of the power plant, you could access carbon credits. So with these two variables, what was initially a group of 5 young South Africans who left corporate South Africa to solely focus on a purpose agenda. And when we say purpose agenda, I mean, I speak with a bit of an accent that's not a reflection of the average black South African. The accent I speak of kind of illustrates the type of schooling and opportunities I've been exposed to, which to us as the founding core, we realized we had to share that justice dividend. We had to broaden the economic opportunities that we were exposed to, and we chose youth regeneration and to focus on young people. And it was through the work we were doing with young South African people that we came across the energy opportunity and the CDM mechanism, which was in essence the first route to financing our activities. But to answer your question, bootstrapping was at the core of our lives, right? My co-founders famously told me we'd take 3 weeks to develop our business and 3 weeks would see cash flows. 10 years later, we were still 3 weeks away from meaningful cash flows, right?
You say 10 years later?
10 years later. I mean, we're in our 16th year now, and if I just give you a sense of, we've gone from self-funded to a key milestone of receiving our first form of development financing for one of our first projects was actually from the US TDA, right? So when you speak about public and private support and partnership, our very first asset was developed with in essence, sovereign funding that we received from the US government. If I look at our first power plant, which is a 36 megawatt CPV project, that's now in its 11th year of operation, that project of ours was funded alongside a French company called Soitec. And they gave us our initial vendor financing at that point because they were preoccupied with moving their technology. So when I look at the different forms of financing we've raised, we've literally gone through every or most pockets of raising financing, from finding a wealthy individual who will literally back an idea to moving towards accessing and tapping development financing, to the point where we are now, where over the last 2 years we've raised just under $400 million of preference share financing from, again, private and state institutions. From a South African perspective, we've been financed by Nedbank, a commercial bank. From a DFI perspective, it's the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa. Madam President, I'm proud to announce also that Norfund, which is a European, in essence, state funding vehicle, has also played a key and meaningful role in financing our activities and our projects. So in a quick answer to your question, we've tapped every single pool of financing we can access to get to this point of us being at near 4 gigawatts of power.
Guys, that deserves a round of applause. Come on. That's beautiful. I love hearing your entrepreneurship story. I think we can all learn more from entrepreneurs like yourself about how we can change the world. Madam President, as you said earlier, we have this extraordinary opportunity leading into the G20 in November, and we've just heard a great example of how blended financing, from bootstrapping through to private sources of capital through to ultimately government financing, has played a huge role. What's your message to other world leaders who are thinking of stepping up and supporting this campaign. And really, as you think about the opportunity leading into the G20, how would you like to frame it?
So it is a fantastic business case because the world will need much, much more energy. Just think about artificial intelligence, for example. So the demand for energy will rise. And here, if we do the right steps, the right choice, this is exactly where to go to. It is the perfect business case if we join forces. Your example is telling, and joining forces is message to the heads of state and government, provide the public funding for the de-risking, for the leveraging that is necessary, provide the conducive environment, regulatory environment for the business. That's our job, the governments and the partners that we have. But also for the companies, it's an enormous opportunity you were describing. Come with your knowledge, come with your specific business idea and invest there and join forces. And we see that the response is enormous. We have put out in our investment program, we call it Global Gateway, 300 billion euros for infrastructure abroad. 150 billion of this goes to Africa, and a big, big chunk of this goes into the renewables. But we know we cannot do it alone. So as I said, we have to join forces with the private sector, and therefore we take our capital to de-risk. We do the reforms with the partner countries. We work closely with them on projects so that the skills of, for example, of the young people that are in this area are improved. And then the business sector comes in with their ideas, with their technologies, of course, with their entrepreneurship, which is necessary. You are the perfect example for that. It's a perfect win-win-win situation for all that are there together. And of course, going up to G20 in Johannesburg, this will be our demand, not only to the heads of state and government, but also to the business sector. Engage, come on, join forces. We can make it together, and it's going to be a big success.
Let's go. Let's go. So Gqi, you've managed to build a business in really challenging contexts, in challenging currency fluctuation environments, where often the enabling environment hasn't been easy. What would help you go further, faster, and better into the future? And what do you see the future of Pele Energy? And I understand you have a commitment you want to make today.
Yes, we do, Hugh. And I think maybe let me start with the commitment, because that will, in essence, also give the backdrop of what will help us move further and faster. But underpinning that are the President's words of partnership, right? I can't overemphasize that point. The Pele Energy Group story is a partnership story, right? 16 years ago, no South African had the skill to develop renewable energy power plants. But at our foundation was the awareness of the importance of partnership to get to that point, right? So we stand here as an organization in its 16th year. Our team in South Africa is 130 people now. As part of the Global Citizen Scaling Renewables campaign, we're pledging and committing to build over the next 10 years, 10 gigawatts of renewable energy, which will power over the next 5 years, 3.1 million households, and over a 10-year, Thank you. Over a 10-year basis, that number of equivalent households that we'd be looking to power would be 6.2 million. If I just, in essence, give a sense of the capital underpinning that commitment as an organization, and this is where the partnership comes in, we are committing to invest our own equity for about $3.6 billion. We will need, and Madam President, I look to you to ensure that our financial partners join us at the table. We'll need to raise senior debt financing of about $8.4 billion in order to implement this portfolio. which brings our total investment over the next 10 years rather, to about $12 billion that we'll be looking as a commitment to make.
Well done. Well done.
But critical for this is partnerships, right? And Madam President, I'm very fortunate to say to you that gone are the days where Africa was looking for solves solely from the rest of the world. Gone are the days where Africa was solely looking to sit as a junior partner, and the days that we now find ourselves in, Madam President, are exciting, right? With the global direction, the certainty that the EU is leading, the certainty and direction we get from the UN, and with movements such as Global Citizen, we stand as a collective ready to respond to our own answers, ready to respond to our own challenges. And as a leader of an organization, one is completely aware that infrastructure is completely essential to deliver societal services and societal goods. We are aware that in the absence of the infrastructure we give and we provide, we're essentially hamstringing our sovereigns, right? So the work we do as a collective, as an organization, as a movement alongside Global Citizen is essential to ensuring not only we eradicate poverty, but most importantly, and this is what we exist for as Pele Energy Group, right? We say we provide the circumstances through which communities can use renewable energy as a conduit through which they can lift themselves to prosperity. And that is essentially the opportunity we have here. Through knowledge and power, we can provide the foundation and the variables through which people can determine a better lives for themselves.
Well done. I feel deeply moved by the power of the partnership that, Madam President, you are leading on behalf of the European Commission, and Gqi, you're leading on behalf of the private sector and entrepreneurship of South Africa and indeed the entire continent. This has been so inspiring, and on behalf of all of us, we want to welcome everyone in this room to join us on November 21st on the eve of the G20 gathering in Johannesburg, South Africa, where we're going to be driving forward a series of pledges from governments around the world, from the private sector, and hopefully also from individual philanthropists, all towards that mission of scaling up renewable energy across the continent. Madam President, thank you for your leadership. Gqi, thank you for your leadership. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you.